everyone. Today we're going to be talking about the bane of every student's existence, reading. In the era of YouTube, podcasts, audiobooks, it's a little bit hard for students to get into reading, especially when it comes to reading textbooks or academic readings. But today we're going to give you a few tricks that'll show you how to actually get those readings done and get the most out of those readings in little time. So, what is effective reading? Effective reading allows you to read and understand text quickly. It reduces the level of frustration that you experience when you're reading because you really don't have to spend that much time reading the work. We can do so a lot quicker than you think you can. However, it is not necessarily speed reading, though it can be useful with practice. You use different tips and tricks to be able to read the text in less time than you would without necessarily speed reading. So, there's two things that you need when you start reading. You need a good attitude and you need to be comfortable. The attitude is very important. You need to stay positive and motivated. You need to walk around, you need to move, you need to take small pauses. Really anything that'll keep your attitude good and you ready to read. The next thing you want to do is to be comfortable, but not too comfortable. You don't want to read in bed and get really comfortable in bed and then just start falling asleep as you're reading. You want to rather sit in a comfortable chair, make sure you have ample light. If you like to work at your desk, that's a really good place to do so because your desk equals work, whereas your bed equals sleep. So now that you're ready to read, you got your good attitude, you're comfortable, and you're ready to go, there's a few steps that you can use to read effectively and read faster. They are called scan, skim, search, read, and review. Those 5 little steps will help you get through your academic readings. So let's start with the first one, scan. When you scan a text, you really just want to look at the broad aspects of the text. Example, the main title, the section chapter titles, the table of contents, and the images and description. These will give you an overall view of what the text will be about, and you'll already have a general sense of what's going to be going on. After you're done scanning, you move on to skimming. Now these sound quite the same, but in fact they're actually a little bit different because when you skim, you go a little bit deeper in the text. You start to actually read parts of the text, including the introduction, the conclusion, the topic sentences, and the concluding sentences. When you think about yourself writing an essay, these are the parts where your thesis, your arguments, and most of the important information will be found. This is the same in an academic text. So your introduction, conclusion, introductory sentences, concluding sentences are very important. Next, you put on your magnifying glasses and you put on your little hat and you become Sherlock Holmes. Because next is time to search. Basically, in this part, all you want to do is highlight keywords. So once you've already scanned and skimmed, you already have a pretty good idea of what you're going to be looking for in the text. So you create a bank of keywords that you know you'll be looking for in the text. For example, if you're reading an article on the latest movie reviews, you might be looking for keywords such as actors, directors, plot, scenery. These are things that you might want to look for really quickly inside of your text. You can also use this stage to look up words that you don't know and to create a word bank of important words. Next, you move on to actually reading the text. However, you don't read it word for word because that takes forever. What you do is you pay attention to those highlighted keywords and you really just read what's around those keywords. So you base yourself on your word bank to identify the parts you should pay attention to, and you pay close attention to the parts you found relevant while scanning, skimming, and searching. This allows you to skip over that 3 paragraphs of tangent and actually focus on what the text is actually about. Next, the last step is review. You look over your list of keywords and add any that you missed, and then you write a brief summary of what the text was about. In the summary, you just need to make sure to write down the topic, the thesis, and the argument, or if it's another type of work, you can write down the plot, the characters, and themes. So this way, when you come back to the reading before the final exam or before the midterm, you can just pick up that summary and remember exactly what that text was about without having to read it again. Normally in university, you'll encounter two types of works, the scholarly work and the literary text. The first one, the scholarly work, is works written on a specific subject by specialists in the field. So these can be articles, critiques, books, textbooks, etc. To understand these, you really need to focus on the purpose or the thesis of the work, like when you're writing an essay. You want to identify the thesis, the author's main arguments, as well as the major examples within the text itself. You can make an outline of these elements as well as a summary of the text itself, much like when you're writing an outline for your essay. Next, there's literary texts, which are works written to convey a message or put emphasis on a certain theme. These can be books, plays, poems, classics, etc. To understand these, it's a little bit different. You can examine the title, the back cover. It's important to read the preface, the introduction, and the postface because these can give you information as to the meaning of the work. You can write down themes, characters, plots, and places in order to create yourself a map of the work. And finally, you can draw a plot graph to summarize the text. These are really good activities, especially for people who are taking English or French classes or classes where you have to read classic texts. These will really help you understand what the text is about and actually be able to read the whole thing. Finally, the last thing you want to do now that you know exactly how to do your reading is actually plan it out. So plan out your readings inside a calendar. That way you know that exactly at this time you're going to be doing a specific reading. Making a reading schedule will help you keep up to date on your readings and is also a great motivation to actually stick to that schedule. You don't want to try to read too many different texts within one day. Normally, we recommend a max of about 2 different texts in the same day. You also want to keep your reading blocks rather short, about 30 minutes to an hour, just so that you don't get tired and stop retaining information. So that's it for today. I hope that you guys learned something about effective reading at university and that these tools will be useful to you guys when it comes time to doing your readings.